Welcome back, and thank you to all my new subscribers. I really appreciate. Like, share, subscribe. Please share the video. Okay, I'm trying to keep these videos short and to the pace, trying to go through this old stuff that I have, but it's still important information. So, the reason why I'm talking about the legacy news media is because ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Disney, CBS, they have the lowest ratings than they ever had because people don't trust the media. They don't believe in the media. And they're not doing anything. They trying to revamp themselves, but they can't because all they do is tell lies. I'm sorry, y'all. And that's all they do. They lie to the people. I have never seen anything like this. So this is not going to be a long interview. I mean, video. But for instance, ABC's George Stephanopoulos was repeatedly warned not to use the R word by the producer, but said it anyway as it relates to Donald Trump. George Stephanopoulos was repeatedly told by his executive producer not to use the R word before going on air to discuss Donald Trump, but the ABC News anchor ignored the warning. He said it multiple times during that interview, and it cost ABC $15 million, which they're going to use that money. The court awarded that, and Trump won another defamation of character lawsuit, and they're going to use that money for his library. Now, CNN ratings challenged, and apparently their ratings went so low after Trump won. Ratings challenge CNN plummeted to a new all-time low in the most converted demographic for advertisers, a downfall exuberated by viewers turning out left-leaning networks following President-elect Donald Trump's overwhelming win. In the key 25 to 54-year-old demographic this year, there was a 1% drop from the previous rock bottom of 94,000 in notched last year, according to Nielsen data. CNN suffered a 52% decline in its primetime demo since the election, pulling it in a measly average audience of 77,000 people. And my daddy, one of them. Ain't that is a hell of a loss of subscribers. Its overtime primetime viewership shriveled by 45% this year to 405,000 viewers, the data showed. Just 11% of cable news viewers tuned in to CNN's primetime shows after Trump's election win, lagging behind left-leaning MSNBC at 16%. On television, CNN ranked again as a top five network in all cable and total day among people aged 2 and over. That is so pitiful. For the fifth consecutive year, and in the top 10 among the 25 to 54 demographic, the network said in a press release. Fox's primetime viewership has grown 7% since the election, compared with its October average, according to Nielsen data. Meanwhile, conservative network Fox News drew a staggering 72% of all eyeballs in prime time, according to Nielsen. CNN attempted to paint a better image of its freefall. On television, CNN again ranked as top five network in all, of cable in total day among people two and over for the fifth consecutive year and in the top 10 among the 25 to 24 demographic, the network said in a press conference. Again, like I said before, Fox viewership grew 7%. One cable news channel in total viewers in the 25 to 54 demographic for the ninth year in a row. I am extremely proud of our entire team for proving once again why we are the nation's most watched network as we outpace the competition in covering the stories that matter most to everyday Americans. Fox News Media CEO Suzanne Scott said. MSNBC took second place for average total day viewers, but fell behind CNN in the 25 to 54 demographic amidst its own post-election turmoil. Since November 5th, MSNBC's ratings have tanked more than 60% in prime time. You hear me? Dropping to only 54,000 average viewers. And they did not change their strategy. Unbelievable. George Soros must be paying these people so much money. I swear to God. The Comcast owned channel has also seen viewers abandon its weekend shows. Last, last Saturday, the network's talk show hosted by Jonathan Capehart managed just 12,000 viewers in the 25 to 54 demographic. That is pitiful. By comparison, Upstart Network News Nation's competition afternoon program generated an audience nearly three times that number, 34,000 in this demographic. Wow. Now, getting back to George Stephanopoulos, like I said, he ended up because he said Trump was convicted of the R word, which he wasn't, and and ABC had to end up paying Donald Trump that $15 million. They also said the parent company of ABC, which is Disney, last week, no, in a defamation lawsuit by Trump against ABC News and Stephanopoulos, shocked media and legal experts. But the damning revelations could help explain why Mouse House CEO Bob Iger signed off on the settlement so quickly. They were so quick to settle because Donald Trump wanted more than the 15 million that they had to pay. During an interview with Representative Nancy Mace in March, the This Week host said that the Trump was liable for the hour while discussing the civil lawsuit won by Eugene Carroll, and they had to pay for it. A second source at the show confirmed via text message by the Post that Stephanopoulos was warned multiple times by producers not to say the R word. And that's why he ended up having to take a pay cut. He had to literally take a pay cut. Disney's challenging or winning the lawsuit would be damaged if Stephanopoulos ignored his producer's warning, legal experts told the Post. Often, when dealing with litigation subjects, the company's legal team may speak to producers ahead of time to advise on language, just like on the View, they do those legal notes, so as to avoid lawsuits, which is customary in the media industry. However, it is unclear whether ABC's legal team had been involved before Stephanopoulos went on air. Apparently, they were. ABC News declined to comment. Reps for Disney and Stephanopoulos did not return requests for comment. Iger agreed. Now, this is the CEO of Disney who oversees ABC. Iger agreed to deal hours after Florida Judge Cecilia Antoni rejected a request to delay the case and ordered Trump and Stephanopoulos to sit for hours-long depositions just days before Christmas, the New York Times reported. The judge also demanded that Disney turn over emails and text messages sent by and to Stephanopoulos, which could have forced the media mogul's hand if the damning text messages surfaced, according to the New York Times. Disney's top lawyer, Horatio Gutierrez, urged Iger to settle the suit rather than risk a civil trial in front of a jury in the president elect's home state. Huh. People familiar with the matter told Wall Street Journal, right, in his home state, they would have paid way more than 15 million. This Disney CEO Bob Iger. Oh shoot, I forgot to turn that refrigerator off. Let me do that now. Cause I'm gonna try to let me turn that off. I thought I had did that. Oh, sorry y'all. But that's the CEO Bob Iger. Iger also warned that fighting the case, let me see, that fighting the case could risk damaging press protections and hurt the Disney brand, according to the Times. If Disney were to suffer a negative outcome in the U.S. District Court in Florida, the company feared the possible repercussions of appealing to the Supreme Court given the current 6-3 right leaning majority. According to the Journal, Disney was concerned that appealing an unfavorable ruling to the Supreme Court would have increased the risk of possible overturning New York Times versus Sullivan, the landmark 1964 decision that granted the press sweeping protections against defamation lawsuits. Sources also told the Post that one factor playing in Iger's thinking is that he didn't want television property. To sell television property. He didn't want to sell it. The deal awarded 15 million to Presidential Foundation and Museum for Trump and another 1 million for Trump's attorney fees. As part of the settlement, Stephanopoulos had to apologize, which made the journalist humiliated. The Post exclusively reported Tuesday in an article, Furious George. A source said ABC News employees are now calling Stephanopoulos Furious George behind his back. They are also wondering how the star anchor can now cover the incoming Trump administration. Everyone seems to be asking that question except ABC brass. Trump initially filed a lawsuit in March. Days later, the anchor, that's the cat. Days later, what the, no! Days later, the anchor went on CBS The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and reasserted his claim that the R word was an appropriate word to use based on comments made by the judge in the New York case. I'm not going to be called out of doing my job because of a threat, Stephanopoulos said. Trump has denied all wrongdoing toward Kerr, but last year a New York court found he was liable for SA over allegations that he abused her at a department store in 1996. That should have been beyond the statute of limitations. And later defamed her in his statements in which he denied her allegations. He called her ugly. He would never be his type. He called it. She's not attractive at all. Okay, so we done with that. Let me mark this stuff off so I know not to. These animals oh shoot. What? Oh, now what happened? We almost done with this. They is tripping out. Stop it, both of you.
Bill O'Reilly went on Chris Cuomo and dropped a shocking bomb about what Comcast plans are for MSNBC's Morning Joe and The View. Cuomo and his guest, Stephen A. Smith, were literally left speechless after Riley's honestly epic rant in the clip that you're about to see. Joe Rogan was probably the maddest that I have ever seen him on his podcast as he talked about how the New York Times fact-checked RFK Jr., and we had to bleep out all of the F-bombs in the clip that I'm about to show you. And finally, Representative Jasmine Crockett went off on an absolutely racist tirade on the floor of Congress in a clip that is sadly going crazy viral. I'm Zach Costello, and this is the Zach Costello Show. Representative Jasmine Crockett went off on a racist tirade on the floor of Congress. And I talk about this stuff every single day, but when I saw this, it left me speechless. Watch this.
It's because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country.
Let me get this racial divisiveness in this country.
That's not what
America
we're talking
is the
about.
model of
Junior's assertion that the ingredients in Fruit Loops are different in Canada than they are in rid of in America, and then of our that's so they're going to be dangerous. What is your
have to ask yourself why? You have to be so lost or bought, but so lost and deep into ideology to believe that this is not a good thing. But as Rogan says here, this is why those who are doing this type of stuff are losing subscribers and gushing viewership, which is what Bill O'Reilly gets at here. Bill O'Reilly went on Chris Cuomo and dropped a bomb about what Comcast plans are for MSNBC's Morning Joe and The View. And Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith, who was a guest on his show, were literally left speechless after this. This is both brutal and hilarious. Watch.
Comcast said, you two, we're going to have to try to mend some cliche fences, and you two are going to go in there and you're going to try to tamp it down. Because Comcast knew the next day they were going to announce that MSNBC is vapor. That is a huge media story.
Why is it vapor? Just because they're spinning it off and putting them in the... Well, they're spinning off a bunch of brands.
There's no spin-off.
There is. It's a spin-off company.
There's no spin-off. See, you buy the propaganda, Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean about
I'm just saying
people?
what's being reported.
All right.
But what do you know?
Yeah, I know, but why would you believe what's being reported? You want the real story? Here
Yes,
it comes.
please.
So they're uncoupling their word, Comcast, MSNBC from NBC News. That means MSNBC has no resources at all. None. They're not going to be able to pay these people millions of dollars. This racial matter, whatever she's making. NBC News is saying, we don't want you around. Why? His numbers, Lester Holt and the Today Show, are catastrophe because half the country equates NBC News with MSNBC and they won't watch. So NBC is desperately trying to save the mothership of information, and they have to throw MSNBC overboard. They're not putting anything into MSNBC. They want to sell it. So where's Georgie Soros now? Georgie's buying radio stations.
Facts.
You can get MSNBC for nothing. They'll give it to you. They don't want any more of this. Why? Because it's hateful. Not because it's so far left. The whole NBC Comcast hiring is far left. But it's hateful. They hate Trump. They hate people who vote for Trump. Everybody knows that. And you know what's next? The View. ABC News is going to have to cut ties with The View. And you saw that today or yesterday when Sunny Hostin had to read a legal statement in the middle of a segment. The lawyers got Whoopi Goldberg's ear and said, we're bringing a statement in on a teleprompter. She reads it. So it is over for these far left networks. Done, never coming back. Dracula's stake in the heart. Who benefits? News Nation may, but CNN, which is on the ropes too, will probably get some MSNBC viewers.
Wow.
There you go.
What do you think of that? Well, I'm certainly not going to accuse them of not making sense.
Oh, man. Dracula.
There you have it.
The View has been embroiled in another humiliating scandal after host Sunny Hostin was forced to read a legal notice concerning incoming Attorney General Matt Gaetz after comments she made on the show.
On screen. Okay, Sunny, you have a legal note. I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism. That DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought. We'll be right back.
The statement came after Sunny Hostin blasted Matt Gaetz for serious allegations against him that he has always denied.
How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old? My understanding further on in the interview, they discussed the fact that once he finds out that she's 17, he stops having sex with her.
Hostin appeared reluctant to read the note and spoke through gritted teeth, which the internet has had a field day with. This commentator said, "The best thing you'll see all week is Sunny Hostin of The View being forced to read a legal note correcting her previous statement about the bogus allegations against incoming AG Matt Gaetz." That face. Russell Brand agreed, saying, "Wait, The View is correcting itself? The world is healing." Matt Gaetz replied to Hostin's statement, simply tweeting eye emojis. But this isn't the first instance of fake news on The View. Just last week, Whoopi Goldberg blasted a bakery for supposedly discriminating against her by refusing to serve her because of her political views.
The place that made these refused to make them for me.
Oh,
really? Yes.
What? Oh,
No. Let me explain. They said that their ovens had gone down, all kinds of stuff, but folks went and got them anyway, which is why I'm not telling you who made them. But can't be because I'm a woman, but perhaps they did not like my politics.
Yeah. This turned out to also be false, and the much simpler explanation was that the bakery's boiler was just not working.
And just a little background for those who know, they had a boiler here. Again, it's been here 145 years. They had a boiler that was 60 or 70 years old. And the first week in November, guess what? It went on the fritz. They had to be replaced. And the reputation of Holterman's is impeccable. So rather than commit to something they couldn't guarantee, they say we can't do it. And the person who besmirched and defamed them took that as an insult to her. Well, get over it. This family will be here for, God willing, another 145 years.
But Whoopi Goldberg was not backing down.
There seems to be a lot of talk about the dessert I requested for my birthday show. I never mentioned the name of the bakery or the location. It does seem a little odd that when we called a few weeks before my birthday and we were told they couldn't process the order for my birthday because of an equipment failure. And somehow they were able to accept an order of a different 48 of the same dessert when somebody else called without using my name.
Sky News contributor Brad Palumbo slammed Whoopi's reaction to the saga.
Well, I only watch it because fans of my podcast, Brad versus Everyone, love to hate watch it with me and see what woke victim nonsense they're up to. Like this time, Whoopi Goldberg basically made up a victim script for herself. Imagine some oppression, but I'm sorry. Whoopi, your victim card is being declined. It's like she thinks that, oh, well, I'm a celebrity and I'm really important, so they can't possibly have issues with their boiler at a dessert place. They must be discriminating against me. You're not actually that important outside of a very narrow slice of liberal elite society, but they've made victimhood a form of social currency in woke circles and in progressive media, so they're always falling all over each other to see how oppressed they can be and how, oh, woe is me.
That's
and
a
if
fact.
That's just that pesky little
That's
problem.
a fact. Let me get rid of that. We don't want to hear no more of that. Oh, I'm so glad they be getting this stuff out, okay? I was falling asleep. Shoot. This gonna be my last one. I was gonna try to do too. Y'all need to stop. For real.
We were talking to Latinos who are also frustrated about the border. What they wanted is, control of the border. They don't want to see the chaos of the border.
How does that impact your vision of the American dream?
Yeah. Well, number one is believing in the American dream.
And a panic. You tell people to stay fraught and like this.
This might be one of the most embarrassing moments I've seen on The View yet. The ladies on the panel got their entire worldview destroyed to their face. Losing streak of inviting minorities
to this country. And you've indicated that the Biden administration wasn't meeting the needs of border states. And this weekend, Trump laid out his mass deportation plan on Meet the Press. Do you think Trump will be able to do what he says he's going to do? And what do you think really needs to be done to address the issue at the border?
So, from my experience and talking to people in Arizona, the only swing border state, and talking to our border mayors and also talking to, border sheriffs, police, nonprofits, everything else, what they wanted is, control of the border. They don't want to see the chaos of the border.
Facts.
We have a broken immigration system. And I think recognizing that, Matt.
Sonny Hostin, I never want you to speak on behalf of Black people again. I never want you to speak
Facts.
on behalf of Hispanic people again.
Facts.
I don't ever want you to speak on behalf of intelligent people ever again.
Facts.
You are
I can't
clearly
stand
not a
her.
good spokesperson.
This is
for any of
Brandon
those
Lehman.
groups. Don't forget, Alyssa told her up with inflation that there were
rent. But even, being out there and talking to not just my Republican friends, we were talking to Latinos who are also frustrated about the border. And we started talking about how, something's going on at the border that's different from what people have experienced in the past. And we need to actually focus on this and talk about solutions.
Yes. People do not like feeling like they're working their absolute heart out and cannot seem to get ahead at all.
Facts.
They want change. They want to be able to be rewarded
Facts.
for working about democracy. The Trump thing. Because,
deep hiding and in silence. She's not changing her tune all of a sudden. She's sticking by her guns. She is a principled person with a backbone and courage. And if he goes after her, she's going to fight back. And it is going to be our job to protect her, to support her, to donate to a legal fund, to make sure that there are lawyers ready to defend her, because it costs a lot of money, because it is very stressful and very drainful, even if there is no crime. Yeah. Being investigated by the federal government is a big deal.
yes, just to clarify, you heard somebody who is a supposed Democrat saying, thank God for Liz Cheney. Now, when would
Right.
you ever hear a Democrat saying, thank God for a Cheney?
Never.
Country, you're not going to be not in a panic.
No,
You are a woman working for the Department of Defense. You have a right to be in a panic.
You tell people to stay fraught and like this.
I'm telling people to prepare, Whoopi. I'm telling people to prepare.
They are prepared.
So that means
I'm saying
that
to
means
people,
that they can't be relaxing and enjoying.
no, it doesn't mean that.
winter is
no,
coming.
it does. You know what? I'm sorry.
I mean, I disagree.
Winter is here.
Right.
Winter's been with us, and my
I used to love Whoopi, especially when she first came out. She played LaFontaine, the junkie. Oh my gosh, she was awesome. And she told the truth about George Bush. I don't know what happened. I know what happened. She sold out. That's what happened. What's the next one? That's what happened. These people sell their soul. But that's another topic for another day. And here come these cats. They act like humans, don't they? Oh, here it is. Right here. Here it is.
Breaking news into CNN, ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos has reached a settlement with President-elect Donald Trump in his defamation suit. The lawsuit stemming from an interview that Stephanopoulos did with Congresswoman Nancy Mace, where he asserted Trump was found liable for rape in a civil case. The network will pay out $16 million as part of that settlement and have to issue an apology. CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter joining me. And Brian, this is actually a lawsuit with ABC News, the network, and Stephanopoulos. What else can you tell us about this?
That's right. It's not every day that you hear about a major network, a TV network, paying millions of dollars and apologizing to the president-elect. So this is a headline with real ramifications.
Diane, hand me my water
it stems
out
from
of
an
there.
episode of George Stephanopoulos' Sunday morning news program where he was talking with a lawmaker, I think it was Nancy Mace. They were talking about the E. Jean Carroll case, and George Stephanopoulos repeatedly used the word rape, saying Trump was found guilty of rape, liable of rape. Well, in fact, the accurate phrase to use is sexual abuse. That is what the New York court found.
It wasn't no water in there?
Stephanopoulos kept using that R word, rape, Trump filed a lawsuit. He filed a defamation suit. We've talked a lot in recent years about people using the courts trying to seek justice. Remember the Sandy Hook case against Alex Jones? Well, those defamation kinds of cases can also be filed by someone like the president-elect. So Trump filed a defamation suit. It was working its way through the courts. ABC was unable to get it thrown out initially. And actually, in the next few days, Trump was set to be deposed in the case. But ABC is avoiding going any further by settling. They're paying out $15 million plus $1 million in attorney's fees. They say this is going to go to a nonprofit, basically to Trump's future library. That's the idea. But maybe most importantly, Jessica, ABC is also apologizing, issuing a statement of regret. I'm just looking at my computer to get the exact wording here, but ABC is going to say, basically attach an editor's note to the website saying it regrets, and George regrets the statements. Meanwhile, an ABC spokesperson tells me they are pleased to have reached this settlement, but it is very notable. They are both paying out money to the president-elect and apologizing for the misstatements on the air.
The question
After you was told because your hatred of one man is such. But 77 million people voted for him. That part. Oh, shoot, I thought they had that. Oh, man. My goodness. Yep, I bet you it is. Because I went through this stuff before. Hold up, y'all, while I find this. I'm so sleepy. Oh, maybe I didn't have it. Damn, why didn't I wipe that off? This is crazy. Here we go.
Critics are going hard after a liberal media member for vile comments about Melania Trump. The former First Lady appears to signal her support for reproductive rights in a video out yesterday.
Individual freedom is a fundamental principle that I safeguard. Without a doubt, there is no room for compromise when it comes to this essential right that all women possess from birth. Individual freedom. What does my body, my choice really mean?
And this take is pretty shocking.
I think she hates him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, so we can all
That's a
agree on
given.
that. That's a given. I also think that she wants to take him out.
That's unfortunate. Wow. I mean, that is violent. They've got to stop talking like that about a former president who's had 2 assassination attempts. I mean, that's just ignorant. A tiny sample of the social media backlash. These are such vile comments, but they are exactly what the Views audience loves. It is targeted perfectly at a radically feminist, liberal audience that loves hate. Another now. This is loving and tolerant rhetoric the left uses, which they accuse the opposing side of using. And this one, those women are a danger to America. They do more than anyone else to stoke political and social tensions. The former president says he thinks his wife should think for herself.
We spoke about it, and I said, you have to write what you believe. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to write what you believe.
Tammy?
She's her own person. I think that's been clear. I also argue constantly, considering my background on the left and with the National Organization for Women, that there is no real choice when you are economically disadvantaged, when you're on the margins, is that choice only comes in when there's a surprise and you can think and say, I can do this, as opposed to I can't do this. So this goes also to reproductive real freedom. It's not freedom when you do it. 70% of abortions, by the way, happen because of an economic problem or because of pressure from the outside. But if you have the money, and you can say, I can do this, I can choose this. But that's only when it's a real choice. That's the only real personal freedom. And that's where a better economy allows all of us to get. Nobody wants more abortions. But when you're giving women a genuine choice and they can do it, you have more babies, more women. You don't have to go through that. That's being pro-choice, not just saying you can't afford it. This is enforced by the government, but we're going to let you have an abortion.
It was one of the points during the vice presidential debate here recently. J.D. Vance was making that point, that Republicans needed to work to be more supportive of women as pro-family, which they are, he said, and they needed to make that case
and earn trust.
And earn trust.
I thought that was a nice moment in the debate. We're talking about it, but I do think that women don't trust Donald Trump because he says one thing and does another. Like he said.
So let me ask you this, because I do want to get back to this point with the left and Melania Trump. Why can't she just be her own woman and have sex?
And she can.
And so why all that criticism? I mean, that was gross from The View.
And
look, The View is not the litmus test of America. We don't think that.
They were afraid of that remark. That was their problem.
So why did they handle it that way?
I don't know, and I don't represent The View, and I would agree with Harris. I agree with Tam on that point, so I'm not defending that. I would say to you that the first lady, former first lady, the second gentleman, the kids, they should be off limits. Not the candidates fight for themselves.
No, but she put herself in. She said so why can't she just have her opinion? Is it because women on the left, at least these women on the left who are very vocal about, being the only ones on the topic that really know what's going on, they are not accepting of all women.
No, but I think they're frustrated, like a lot of women across America, when more than 1/3 of women don't have reproductive freedom anymore because of Donald Trump's Supreme Court.
Because of the economy.
Right, because of the economy. Because if you won't an abortion, you can get one.
You never see these media organizations held to account for their vile lies they tell about Donald Trump. I mean, it's rare to see it happen at all. And trust me, as a media figure, I'm not clamoring to see media figures get sued for defamation for, mild sins or even moderate sins. But this was just so egregious. And they did it over and over and over again at ABC News. They didn't care. They clearly enjoyed saying what George Stephanopoulos said. It made them feel good about themselves. This is George Stephanopoulos', I'll just leave the dirty teen joke there. That's how he feels about saying nasty things about Trump. And finally, it came back to bite him. I would love to see what's in his text messages to his producers, because I guarantee it just cost ABC News $15 million.
So did.
That's almost certainly what happened. So you may have heard this over the weekend. Trump sued ABC News, and ABC News caved. They collapsed. They gave in like that.
So
Quickly
did.
settled the case with President-elect Donald Trump after the network's top star, George Stephanopoulos, had been ruled by the judge to be required to sit for a deposition.
And he had to take a pay cut.
And the judge
had to take a pay cut.
Well, you have to. You said a bunch of dumb shit. You've been sued for defamation. I've refused to get rid of this case thus far. And you must sit like any other defendant, you privileged whatever. You must sit for a deposition and answer questions from Trump's lawyer. Trump, earlier in the case, had said, I'll sit for deposition, but not right now because I'm running for president, so I'm kind of busy. And the judge gave him a delay, but the judge also looked at Trump and said, you must sit too. You got a little time on your hands. I'm aware of your job. So Trump was going to have to sit too. But Trump, we know, is willing. Trump sat when he was getting sued by E. Jean Carroll. Remember, that's that famous exchange with her lawyer. He's like, you, for example, would never be my type. When she said, did you say you can grab women by the you-know-what, and they'll let you do it and you're a star? And he said, well, for thousands of years, that's been true. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that was Trump sitting for a deposition in a civil lawsuit that was against him. So he will do it, but George Stephanopoulos would not. He got the order that he would have to testify under oath, and they caved. They collapsed. They gave in and cried uncle. It's sad because I would have loved to have read that deposition transcript. You guys are probably familiar with the absolutely disgusting interview that led to all of this with George Stephanopoulos.
Yep, and they had to pay. And they ratings tanked after that. Then here we go. I can't
Donald
stand
Trump
that
set off
jewelry.
a firestorm today in his press conference.
And that was the Des Moines Register, and it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud, and it was election interference. And we'll probably be filing a major lawsuit against them today or tomorrow. And we're filing one on 60 Minutes.
And the media is panicking.
That I was in cahoots with somebody, I was being paid by somebody. It's all just kind of, it's hard to pay too much attention to it, except that they're accusing me of a crime.
George Stephanopoulos himself is paying $1 million of his own money.
Legacy media is dead, and he wants it dead. He wants other media, but it is kind of, sort of. I'm very dark about it. Let's get into it.
Well, things are not looking good.
This is Melanie King. I like her.
Out there, and for some pollsters. So if you remember back during the election, a few days before, Ann Seltzer from the Des Moines Register,
I'm going to go past some of this.
That showed
I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers love me and I love the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was. Way up. An easy win. We never even thought to go there. I respect them. I love them. And they understand there's no reason to go there because she brought it from way up, walk away, which it was. And it turned out to be in the election, too, by the way. It was a win by many, many points. And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before. And everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where I was down by 3 or 4, whatever number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register. And it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud and it was election interference. You know, she's got me right always. She's a very good pollster. She knows what she was doing. And she then quit before.
She sure did.
We'll be filing a major lawsuit against them today or tomorrow. We're filing one on 60 Minutes, you know about that, where they took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, a horrible answer.
And he won that lawsuit too against. Nobody trusts these media outlets anymore. Nobody. Except for a few like my daddy. My daddy
do.
They
replaced it with something else she said later on in the interview, which wasn't a great answer, but it wasn't like the first one. The first was grossly incompetent. It was weird. And that was fraud and election interference by their news magazine, a big part of CBS News. So as you know, we're involved in that one. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward, where he didn't quote me properly from the tapes. And then on top of everything else, he sold the tapes, which he wasn't allowed to do. He could only use them for reporting purposes, not for sale purposes. And he admits that. And I think we'll be successful on that one. And we have one very interestingly on Pulitzer, because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax. Well, it turned out to be a hoax.
Sure did.
They were exactly wrong.
They lied. Hillary.
Like many people, John Solomon, Sean Hannity's not for Pulitzer, but Sean Hannity got it right. Many people got it right. Tucker got it right. Jesse got it right. Laura got it right. Janine got it right. A lot of people got it right. They didn't get anything. They gave it to reporters that got it absolutely wrong. And now everybody admits it was a hoax.
Yeah.
I want them to take back the Pulitzer Prizes and pay big damages. And I think we're doing very well on that one. They have no excuse for it. They gave a Pulitzer Prize to writers that got Russia wrong.
That lie. Well. That lie.
Do this. I shouldn't really be the one to do it. It should have been the Justice Department or somebody else, but I have to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it, but we have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt.
So all of these organizations have a target on their back, and I do think we need accountability. People shouldn't be able to just put anything out there and claim that they're just so innocent when we know the truth. We know
when they lying. When they lying.
Saw that needed to be fixed. The reality is that more people supporting Donald Trump turned out. I'm eagerly awaiting the Secretary of State's turnout reports that will happen in January to see what we can glean from that. But there wasn't an adjustment to my data when we saw that it was going to be a shocker that I would have said, okay, let's adjust it. It's not like I know ahead of time what the right numbers are going to be.
77 million people voted for him.
I just made this shirt at my merch shop, realmelanieking.com, that are going to be calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a...
I can't stand her either.
Chilling effect, I mean, shout out to the standards department. Okay, standards is always making sure that we are keeping the bar high and substantive and accurate. But what George Stephanopoulos said in that interview, I mean, it seems to hold up with what the judge said after the fact. And now his news organization and himself, George Stephanopoulos himself, is paying $1 million of his own money to the lawyers, and ABC $15 million. It's insane.
And this is why you see places like The View, which is on ABC, who have been doing an extreme number of fact checks on The View. Now, even though they still get a lot of their lies and propaganda through by just, speculate.
Woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless lawsuit.
Oh.
He has denied any wrongdoing. I have a legal note. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations and has not been charged with any crime.
Yeah.
Gaetz previously dismissed allegations that he paid for sex, saying that, quote, someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward. Another legal note, Pete Hegseth's lawyer said he paid the woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless lawsuit. He has denied any wrongdoing.
Just call the show Legal Note from now on.
We know that legacy media is dead. It's been dead for a long time.
Legacy media is dead. It is.
Up under their TDS, their Trump derangement syndrome, by demonizing and talking about Trump nonstop. So now that they can't, what are they going to do? And I'm not the only one.
That's right, Melanie. I like her. I like Melanie Can. Okay, that's 12:24. Oh, where's my pen? Damn. I think 2 more and I'm done. Hold on, let me find these last 2.
Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. We have a real paradigm shift happening in politics that the national conversation and so on and so forth. They kind of do the both sides stunt. David Pakman show and many of some degree the Fox ratings are part of the victory party. So here's the big picture. The collapse of MSNBC and CNN is not only about Trump's victory or a post-election ratings dip. I believe that it's about trust. These networks failed their audiences.
Facts.
They didn't prepare people for what was coming. They did not offer a compelling vision for what happens next. Now, to be fair, I was trying to warn people about the polls pointing to Trump wins every swing state. Some in my audience appreciated it. Some in my audience said, David,
this is David Pakman show.
Poll numbers. The difference is I can just do whatever I want because I don't have 10 layers of editors and executives. MSNBC and CNN are different, but that's where we ended up. Here is where we ended up. The critical question right now, as we look at the next 6 months, beyond Trump's inauguration and at the first atrocities that Trump will no doubt do policy-wise, where are these viewers who have left CNN and have left MSNBC, where are they going? Many are stepping back from politics entirely, at least for now. I believe the vast majority of them, at some point, are going to get ready to re-engage, and they will. I'm not convinced that it's I turn MSNBC back on. I'm not convinced.
Hell no, because they still at the low. They
increasingly they are turning.
They trying to sell them.
Media.
They trying to sell them.
I have no producer. For better or worse, right? I mean, maybe
they at the lowest ratings for years. Okay, now this last one. Yep, this is the last one. I like Tish Reagan. I love her.
Let me just say, life is getting kind of uncomfortable over there at Disney and ABC News because the new head of the FCC, one Brendan Carr, working for Donald Trump, is already getting started. The inauguration hasn't even happened yet, and yet Brendan Carr is firing off letters to the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, saying that, this isn't cool, that ABC has basically had this erosion in public trust. In other words, the news network is a problem. Take a look at this, you guys. Okay, so just a couple of days ago, just before the holiday and about 10 days after, they settled that $16 million suit there. Well, it was actually a multi-billion-dollar suit, but they settled for $16 million. $15 million to the Trump Library and another $1 million going to the lawyers for Donald Trump. Well, Brendan Carr says, you know what, there's this erosion in public trust, hey, ABC, and I'm kind of concerned about it, especially when it comes to licensing all your little networks all over the country. They have an affiliate system, you see there, at ABC News. And so he wrote that, quote, ABC's own conduct has certainly contributed to this erosion in public trust. For instance, ABC News recently agreed to pay $15 million to President Trump's future presidential foundation and museum and an additional $1 million in attorney's fees to settle a defamation case. In other words, he's able to use that, you see, against Iger and against ABC. So it's not like they're retreating as a result of that $16 million that they're getting. No, in fact, this actually gives them more ammunition. In other words, the public is so sick of you guys. You do such stupid stuff. You admitted that you do stupid stuff. You admitted it. You got the stupid guy on air that keeps making allegations of stuff that didn't happen, that's not true, that the judge never said Donald Trump was guilty of. And so George Stephanopoulos, he knew it, by the way, he knew it. His producers told him, don't say it. He said it anyway. Why would he do that? Other than to perhaps influence the outcome of an election. So now ABC News has to give an apology, has to give all this money, and now Brendan Carr is saying, okay, well, that's proof. That's proof you guys are no good. And so he's going to be kind of heavy-handed. You know, typically you get an FCC chair, and I bet you couldn't even name them, right? I happen to know them because a lot of these people I've interviewed many times, and I know personally. But I would say that the FCC is not the most glamorous of jobs, and I think suddenly that's about to change. Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Bob. You know, Elon doesn't like you either, so you're kind of in a tricky scenario here. DeSantis doesn't like you very much either. I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of Republicans that are really not very big fans of one Bob Iger. Maybe he'll actually finally retire over all this. There's a good piece in the New York Post, well, it's everywhere being reported that basically what this is going to come down to are those affiliate licenses. So apparently somehow CNN gets their hands on this letter, which they haven't actually shared, but they've shared excerpts from the letter, including quotes like, you've already basically shown your own conduct has certainly contributed to this erosion in public trust. That was one of the little tidbits. But they've also pointed out that ABC, because it has to negotiate all these affiliate deals, is actually in a very vulnerable spot. You see, local TV stations, they're licensed by the FCC. They get their license. They're actually much more trusted than the national networks, but the national networks are the ones that provide them the programming in between their local stuff. So you get it, right? You know, you're watching your local news in the morning, and then all of a sudden, Good Morning America comes on. Or you're watching some other local program, and then The View comes on. And after a while, you're probably like, why do I have this national network news program?
To see the reflection. One of the reasons that everybody has survived is because the Secret Service has been doing their job. Let's start with that. That's, so quit blaming folks until you decide to take a look at what's coming out of your mouth. You didn't want to tell people that it was a lie that you've been talking about when you're sending people to go against folks in the community, in Ohio. You know it's a lie. But you talk about, well, Joy, you're going to bring it up. Yeah. Because you know what he did.
J.D. Vance.
Yes, talk about it.
So just to be clear, that was Whoopi Goldberg, who is very incoherent most of the time, trying to somehow suggest that he brought this on himself. He deserved to get shot. Is this like the United Healthcare thing? You know, you deserve it because you work for a health insurance company. You deserve it, Donald Trump, because we don't agree with you. And because of some of the things that we don't like that you said, even though we take them out of context nonstop, because we don't like those things, somehow it's okay. Listen, I'll tell you, the media's got to watch it here. Like, there should be some self-policing. Like, you should have some restraint, some control.
Facts.
You should take on some responsibility. And that's going to say, he's George Stephanopoulos having insisted on saying the president was guilty of committing this crime over and over and over again, despite everybody telling him not to. Now we know why he said this. I'm going to play you this clip. This happened 2 days before the election, you guys. 2 days. And he's like pleading with America. This is the most consequential, No, it's not consequential to anybody other than you, buddy, and your bottom line.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. It is almost over. What comes next is anyone's guess. What we do since the war has posed such a test of our constitutional system. The peaceful transfer of power has never on the ballot like this. The stakes in this election are as high as it gets. The differences between candidates are as stark as it gets.
Surely is one dumber than a bag of rocks.
The polls suggest that this election is a...
Anyway, Carr had expressed concern over how ABC strike its affiliation agreements with local stations that carry the ABC shows. And he's positioning himself really as a friend to these local news networks because he said, and I quote in this letter that we got courtesy of CNN, I guess we know where Iger's friends are, quote, my understanding is that ABC is attempting to extract owners' financial and operational concessions from local broadcast TV stations under the threat of terminating long-held affiliations, which could result in blackouts and other harms to local consumers of broadcast news and content. So what exactly is ABC trying to do? Trying to give a really bad deal to all those little affiliates around the country? Oh, you want to carry Whoopi? You got to pay us big time for her. I don't think anyone wants to pay for her or Georgie Pie. So he also flagged how Disney is, quote, prioritizing its global streaming services at the expense of local and freely accessible stations. A strategy employed by most major media companies that are trying to compete with streaming giant Netflix. This is per the New York Post. So yes, got it? Like streaming is everything, right? Like if you're not streaming, you're really nowhere. So The View is nowhere. ABC News is nowhere. But the streaming platform is actually valuable. And as much as Disney has stumbled with its streaming platforms, it's hanging on to that. He did go out and say he wants to get rid of ABC News. He wants to get rid of all his cable networks. This is one Bob Iger. He said this at Sun Valley, I think the summer before last. It's taken him a while. Apparently nobody wants to buy them.
What? Nobody wants to buy them. People don't trust them. And it's the end of them. And they still at the low. What I read to you at the beginning, your viewership, CNN from millions down to 500,000. That is awful. NBC Joy Reid only get 54,000 views out of millions. Yes, the end of that. Because don't nobody trust them. And don't nobody watch them. Yes, they trying to sell and get rid of all that. They should have sold it to Bill Cosby instead of framing him when he wanted to buy NBC. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Oh, Lord, it's 1 o'clock. I was about to do P. Diddy. I guess I'm not. Have a good night, y'all.